The contents of this program may not necessarily represent the views of Umma Channel.
Hi, welcome to Living a Dynamic Life. I'm Miriam Louise Curtis. Assalamu alaikum. And welcome to my guest. It's Rachel Bartholomew, and we have two guests today, Mandy Pearson as well. So the two ladies are very special ladies indeed, and thank you for being here. We have a book here called Mindful Eating, which says quite a lot about how we eat, how we should eat perhaps, and educating ourselves into eating. So if I start with you first, Rachel, thanks for coming along today. So why is mindful eating important to you?
I think mindful eating is particularly important in today's society. I think we live in a very busy, hurried society where people have an awful lot going on. And sometimes eating is the one thing that gets missed out of all of that. I'm a nutrition consultant, and my job is to help people to become healthier through making dietary change. And sometimes it's just those simple changes that can be the most effective. And something as simple as just slowing down and taking your time over your food and actually choosing to eat foods that are going to do you some good can have a profound effect. So I think mindful eating is particularly important in today's society.
I agree with you totally. I think it's important in any society, any culture as well.
Yeah.
And I think food can be used as a kind of, family time. I know my daughter, they refuse to answer any of the telephones, they don't have the television on. And I think how we consume food is really important. If we're angry or we've had a family row, we don't digest food properly and things like that. And certainly for me, I have a friend called Julie Silver who's a nutritionalist. And having studied home economics, A-level biology, and what I thought was studying food, learning from Julie was amazing because you guys are the real deal, aren't you?
Yeah, I think what you've said is so true. I think when I first did my training in nutrition, I went to learn about food and I went to learn about the benefits of food and all the different nutrients and vitamins and minerals. And as my journey's progressed, I've come to realise that food represents so much more than just a collection of nutrients on a plate. How you eat something is just as important as what you're eating, and I think what you said is such a lovely tip, just the mere act of switching your phones off while you're at the table so that you can just focus on what you're eating, and that way it's going to do you so much more good.
Because of the absorption and everything.
Yeah.
It's all too easy to watch the television, you're not really listening, you're not really engaging. And I think very often now, because we live such busy lives, people don't have family time like they used to, which is incredibly sad.
Yeah.
And I just think we need to value our most valuable asset is our time.
Yeah.
And do you want me to speak louder or Rachel? I think how we look at our time and valuing our time is really, really important, and it is our most valuable asset. And when we choose to spend quality time with our friends and family and eating healthy, we all remember having a fabulous meal with friends and family, don't we?
Yeah.
And those are the precious memories that we have. Yeah. So I'm going to come to you, Mandy, in a few moments, so please don't think I'm ignoring you, but I just want to take time to find out, obviously, from yourself, what was it that prompted you to become a nutritionalist?
About 15 years ago, I went travelling to Australia. I'd finished university and I was having a gap year, and I was a little bit unsure as to what I was going to go on and do. We arrived in Sydney, and straight away I just recognised that the availability of healthy, fresh food that was also really delicious was just so different than what we had in the UK at the time. And as my time in Australia progressed, I noticed that everywhere. And I came back with ideas of bringing that back to the UK. When I arrived back, I started to do some research on how I could learn more about food. I found a course which was down in London, and spent 4 years training down in London, and that's where my journey started in nutrition.
So you actually trained with quite a remarkable guy, didn't you?
Yeah, I trained with Patrick Holford. He set up the Institute of Optimum Nutrition down in London, and that's been going for quite some years now. Had some lectures with Patrick himself and other really prominent people within the field. So I feel really lucky to have been part of that course, and it really set me on the right path. So yeah, that was where the journey into nutrition started for me.
So just remind me of Patrick's book.
Patrick, one of the first books that he wrote was the Optimum Nutrition Bible. And I think that's a really good place to start, actually, if people are interested in finding out a little bit more about nutrition. It's a really nice introduction to the power of nutrition and what good food can actually do for you.
Because it's true, isn't it? If we eat rubbish, we feel rubbish.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. If our blood sugar is spiking here, there and everywhere, if we're drinking Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
we only need to look at the effects of alcohol.
Yeah.
And we feel hungover, sometimes we feel
Yeah.
horrible for days.
Yeah.
And eating healthy is really, really important, isn't it? And especially for me, being a mother and being a grandmother, to educate children into eating healthy, to me is very important as well.
Yeah, I think it starts with education, and that's a big passion of mine. I'm very, very interested in children's health and children's nutrition, and I think we really need to start education right at the grassroots, because I think it's really, really important, looking at the generations to come, that people are making choices that are actually going to help them to become healthier. And start to really look at reducing the chronic diseases that we are now starting to see in society, some of which are directly down to what people are eating. And I think really education is where that starts. And the habits that we have around eating start from such a young age. So if
Absolutely.
we can really start to help children to eat well from a young age, I believe that those habits will stay with them for the rest of their lives, and that's job done then.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. So I'm going to move to Mandy now. So welcome, Mandy. Now you come at this from a totally different point of view altogether, don't you?
Well, yes. I mean, a lot of what Rachel said, it's so important to start educating people at an early age, and I really believe that too. I think how you eat is just as important as what you eat. And I think what I'm here to do is to help people with their choices around food, and to help people change some of the habits that might have got in at childhood stage. And, parents have the best intentions with children, but sometimes habits get put in there, like tea and biscuits together, or just things that develop as we grow up. And, I want to help people choose to change if that's what they want to do.
So tell me about your background. Your background is psychotherapy?
Yes, my background is psychotherapy. I think my journey started about 28 years ago. I had some challenges when I left university, and it provoked, the desire to change for myself. So I started to look around for ways to do that. And I learnt lots of different therapies, complementary therapies. I was lucky enough to be in Devon, which was a kind of hub of activity for therapeutic change at the time, and learnt NLP, which is something I train now, which has been very important to me, and travelled the world basically finding out different approaches and what worked, because I think what's critical is to have something that is practical and usable that people can start to put into practice straight away.
So just for the viewers out there, NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, which is
right.
very similar to hypnotherapy, isn't it?
It
And
is,
it's
and
about
yeah.
reprogramming the mind and reprogramming the subconscious, the conscious mind.
Yeah, I think it's very
everything we
important
do.
to know that we've got a conscious mind and we've got an unconscious mind, which is kind of responsible for millions of bits of information that are coming in all the time. And so, yes, I think hypnotherapy and NLP are fabulous therapies because they work not just at the conscious level. And I don't think our minds understand terribly much at this level. Our
Not
rational
the conscious
minds.
level, no.
You know, I think they try very hard to understand, but they don't always get what's going on. And our unconscious mind is a massive resource that we can use to change things. So a lot of what we work with mindful eating is helping people change habits at an unconscious level as well, and using meditations, using hypnosis, using lots of different ways and strategies to do that.
Because certainly from my point of view, obviously as a therapist, and we work in similar fields, I very often find when I'm hypnotising someone or I see a client for overeating, then it's a subliminal message of guilt, doubt, fear with food, and that explains the binging. And certainly to me, if we don't treat the underlying subliminal imprint there, you're just another accident waiting to happen, which is why a lot of people who diet then go on to put the weight on again, because the emotional issue underneath has not been looked at. And I know certainly for me, as a teacher of holistic medicine, Mindful Eating is a book that I recommend because it's common sense. You know?
And we say that, you know, it's almost going back to Grandma's wisdom on food and nutrition. And, you know, I think in modern day life, people can be in such a hurry and rushing around, so much stress. What we encourage people to do is just to slow things down, take a pause, become mindful. We say become detectives of how you eat and what you bring to the table, and start to examine, you know, when you're not eating, perhaps, you know, just to think about what your patterns are around food, what emotionally, you know, what you were saying before is so important, what triggers your eating emotionally, because when we're young, we might pick up lots of emotional patterns. You know, it's almost food's used as comfort from such an early age. And, you know, the Americans call a dummy a comforter. And I think it's about comfort a lot of the time. And so it's about identifying why you eat, why you overeat, if that's what you do, or why you undereat, what your relationship with food's like, and bringing that awareness in the moment so that you can choose to change if you want to do that.
I think it's a very valid point, that, because we can only change when we're ready to change. People can often play at various different things. Well, I want a quick fix for my addiction to food or alcohol or whatever else. Unless somebody's really committed to do that, it's a waste of time.
Yes, absolutely. And we say this isn't a magic wand, and there aren't any magic wands out there, because people, you know, need to dig a bit deeper and find out what's really going on for them if they really want change that lasts for good. And I think part of what brought us to mindful eating, both Rachel and I, was a bit of an irritation with some of the quick fixes that are out there. And we wanted to bring something that just installs such good habits for the rest of your life.
And this is the important thing, as Rachel said before, about, you know, bringing education into children, because a lot of children now, let's go down to Mackie D's or, you know, quick fish fingers and chips or whatever, and most parents are on the run. And I just find it really sad that a lot of children now don't even know what the vegetables are. So obviously within Islam, the benefit is the chickpeas and the lentils and much more of the healthy eating. But what would be your advice to someone who was looking for that change if they are overweight, or even if they are actually underweight?
So it's really important to be kind to yourself about food, first and foremost. I think what you said a moment ago about people feeling shame and guilt around food, from the point of view, the psychological point of view, and Rachel might have a different nutritional one, you know, put down the stick, stop beating yourself up about what you eat. Really pay attention to what you eat and start to be really kind to yourself. And if you're going to eat something that's maybe not their best food choice, allow yourself to do it, but with full awareness. Allow yourself to enjoy every moment of it. And, you know, I'd say it's quite hard to eat a greasy Mackie D's with full awareness of what's gone into it, of where it came from, and enjoy every bite knowing exactly what it's doing to your body. So if you can slow it right down and really pay attention with all your senses, suddenly the idea of a beautiful ripe tomato is so appealing. You know, and we like to say tomatoes don't have a marketing department, unfortunately, But you know, that's such
you're here to
beautiful.
make the difference,
We're the
maybe.
marketing department for the tomatoes.
For the
probably,
tomato.
yeah.
Sounds good
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to return back to Rachel here. So what's your view on that? Mindful eating is so amazing and it's such a vast subject. I love this book because it's practical, it's easy, there's lots of really good recipes in here. And you were approached by the publisher to do it anyway, weren't you? So how long did the book take you? How long has the book been out? Tell me a bit about the book.
So the book came out in January of this year, and we were approached by the publisher in March of last year. They'd heard about what we were doing, seen our website, you know, read about what we were doing, and were really interested in us writing a book about it. So that's when the dialogue started about writing the book. They really wanted the book to be out in January, so we weren't given a very long time frame to do it, which actually, once myself and Mandy got our heads together about it, we had a lot of the material for the book anyway. We've been running courses for a few years now, so the material from the courses is what formed the basis of the book. So having a short time frame just made us really focus, and we just spent 3 or 4 months together writing the book, which doesn't sound like a long time, but yeah, it kind of worked out, and went through the editing process. Once we'd got the text in, there's a few months of editing backwards and forwards, and then yeah, really pleased to see it out in January of this year. It was really exciting times.
I remember when my book came out and I just cried. I just couldn't stop crying. And I just, you know, you have to remember to breathe, but the excitement.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, all that work is just finally
Yeah.
there, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a surreal moment when the book, because we both received a copy through the post individually, and I remember picking the phone up to Mandy straight away and saying, "Have you got your copy?" Yeah, and it was a real moment. I think you do have those moments in life, those pinpoints that you can really remember.
Pivotal moments.
Yeah, another one of those was going down to London and sitting around a table with the publisher and discussing, you know, ideas for the book. But yeah, it was definitely one of those moments that I will remember forever. Yeah.
Wonderful. So back to you, honey. How did you feel? Because it is this real sense of satisfaction, isn't it?
Oh, it was a dream come true for me. I think I've always wanted to write. Well, I always have written, but it was an absolute dream to have written a book. I think what Rachel said, we were both just jumping up and down and yelling at each other, weren't we, down the phone? It was just such a fantastic moment. And I just feel incredibly blessed and lucky that we were given the opportunity to do it.
So where is the book available? Because obviously your sister has the cafe, yours is the Earth at Parbold in Wigan in sunny Lancashire.
Yeah.
Where else is it available?
So the book's available all over. You can buy it on Amazon. It's available in Waterstones, most major bookshops.
WH Smith's.
Yeah, WH Smith. It's
Kindle.
available. It's not on Kindle at the moment, but I know that there's talks about, you know, trying to develop that. But yeah, it's but yeah,
I think
very widely available.
So I think part of why it's not on Kindle, the illustrations are so beautiful. We had a fantastic illustrator, and a lot of the book is quite visual. So I think it would be more of a challenge to move it to Kindle at the moment.
Yeah. Well, let's leave it because I think it's absolutely perfect. I've recommended this to quite a few clients, and clients have actually approached me about it as well anyway. So from personal experience from me, and obviously I've read it, I think it's fantastic. It kind of brings the whole thing of mindful eating into the whole package, and it's what people need, isn't it? It's what people want to go forward in their lives. Yeah. So I'm just going to come back to you, Mandy, for a second. So tell me a little bit more about your story. You've obviously been aware of holistic medicine, psychotherapy, and you mentioned a few other therapies that you've done over the years, and you've obviously travelled a lot. So just tell me about those experiences, maybe some of the more profound experiences. There's a lot of wisdom there that I want to get under your skin and expose, if that's okay.
I think one of the most profound experiences I had was being out in California doing my trainer for my NLP practitioner, my NLP training. And I met such an incredible crowd of people. And the man who runs it out there is a guy called Robert Dilts. And I guess his kind of life statement, his mission statement, is to create a world that we all want to belong to. And that really spoke to me. And it was such an experience of what people from many, many different countries gathered together. Just the energy that could ensue from those people being in the same place and working together collaboratively. And I think, for me, collaboration is such an important thing to do for peace and change. And, you know, the collaboration Rachel and I had on the book was very much like that. We bounced off each other so well. Yeah, I mean, I've had so many gifts of experiences in my life, but, you know, the ones where I feel communities come together, people start to create change because of their interaction with other people, that's the ones where I've really felt blessed to have, really.
Yeah, because I must admit the camaraderie between the two of you is quite lovely. I love to be around people who are in sync, you know, completely with one another. So you were explaining to me before that you met at Cedar Farm, and just tell me how all that came about, because it wasn't a coincidence, was it? The universe had that one covered.
I said we met by chance, and you said it wasn't chance.
The universe knew what it was doing. God, Allah, the Creator, the great divine spirit.
Yeah, we
Somebody
met.
was watching over you, weren't they?
Yeah, Mandy came to see me about. I have a clinic and a studio, and I rent the studio out to people who want to come and run courses. So Mandy came to see me, never met Mandy before, about using the studio to run some courses of hers. She was running an NLP practitioner program, and we got chatting, and we spent quite a long time chatting that day, didn't we? And we started to talk about our individual work, and the conversation kind of came onto food and working with people who were really struggling with eating. I've spent a lot of years working with people who come to me with the motivation to lose weight, and Mandy's done a lot of work with people with addictions also. And we just together decided that perhaps the unity of psychology and nutrition could be so much more powerful than us working individually with people. So that day we decided that it might be an idea to start working on developing a course that people could come to, that we could run as a group, and really unite those two things, the psychology and the nutritional side of things. And it's just snowballed from there on. We started to develop the idea. We spent probably about a year developing the idea, and then we ran our first course, which went really, really well. And now we regularly run courses in mindful eating together. Obviously the book was the next step after the courses. Mandy's in the middle of recording a mindful meditation CD to accompany the book. We've got a retreat planned in spring. So from that original meeting when we first met, so much has happened. And when we're ready, the right step just seems to appear.
And I think that's all about trust. I mean, obviously, as a holistic therapist and with the experience that you've had, I mean, you've been lucky enough to grow up with a mum who has done yoga, and she's a very dear friend of mine. Yeah. She's very switched on, isn't she?
Yeah, I grew up in the environment. My mum's practiced yoga since she was age 18, so my mum's always done yoga throughout my childhood, and still does. She teaches yoga. She also did a lot of training in NLP, and she's done a lot of personal development. And I said to you before, I think I'm one of three. I've got two sisters, and I think when we were growing up, we probably took it for granted that that's the kind of environment we grew up in. And I think looking back now, I feel very blessed that I was part of that, and I grew up with the mindset of, you know, if you put your mind to it and you believe it, you can achieve anything, which is a very powerful seed to plant in a child, I think, and a real gift to give to your children as they're growing up. So yeah, I feel very blessed to have grown up in that environment, of having very nurturing parents, you know, both my mum and my dad, very nurturing, and to be very open-minded about the world.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, isn't it, to be nurtured, and that really comes down to law of attraction, where we put our thoughts, we create. If we believe that we can do something. Obviously we can.
Yeah.
So we're coming to a break in a couple of minutes now. So I just want to come to you, Mandy, for a second. What I want to do after the break is just go maybe a little bit more into your story, because obviously you're doing the meditations to accompany the book. And certainly for me, I run a meditation group, and I really think that meditations are so important. So what would be your advice to anybody now who is thinking about mindful eating, to maybe just get a copy of the book, or what would be your advice, just very quickly?
I think I'd start with now, and the very next meal that you have, just take some real time to sit down and start to experience that all through your senses. So see exactly what's on your plate in front of you, get the aromas, really, put it in your mouth, let your tongue experience that on all your taste buds, slow it right down, and just start to notice what you notice and bring your mindfulness to that moment.
Wonderful. That's a perfect way to close. Thank you. So I hope you've enjoyed the first half of Living a Dynamic Life. I'm Miriam Louise Curtis, and I'll see you in the second half. Thank you.
What we do is ask people to prepare a meal, and before they start that meal, we ask people to look at the ingredients on the plate and consider how they would go about making that meal from scratch. So if they had to do everything involved in putting that meal together from scratch, whether that's growing vegetables, growing fruit, keeping animals.
If you've got the TV on in the background all the time, then you're just passively taking in whatever messages are coming at you, rather than thinking, what atmosphere do I want to create in this moment? We're very big on people taking responsibility for their lives and their environments, and the metaphor that's often used in NLP is driving your own bus, making sure that you're in charge of what happens.